That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Extraction 2, which is, of course, the follow-up to the hit 2020 Netflix title, Extraction. And this is being released courtesy of Netflix on June 16th, 2023.
I know we reviewed Extraction. I don't remember anything about it except that they're in Bangladesh.
Yeah, I think he's extracting a child, from what I remember.
And at the end, Chris Hemsworth looks like he's been killed. So it was interesting to see how they handle that in this film.
Well, like that film, this one is directed by Sam Hargrave, who's previously a stunt coordinator before the first Extraction, produced by the Russo brothers and written by Joe Russo.
The story, after barely surviving the events of the first movie, Chris Hemsworth is back as the Australian Black Ops mercenary, tasked with another deadly mission, rescuing the battered family of a ruthless Georgian gangster from the prison where they are being held. That's basically it. So the first 22 minutes of the movie is us seeing Chris Hemsworth from the last film. He looks like he's been killed, like Swiss cheese, and then we see him fall into the river. And when he floats up on shore, the entire coastal water is bloodied. Like a shark attack has attacked 20 people. Don't know how he's alive, but they stitch his ass up, take him to a hospital in Dubai, and we see him fully recover. Then we see him get sent off to a lodge in the woods, like J-Lo and the mother. Mm-hmm. And we have the ubiquitous training montage.
Well, because he's visited by a mysterious figure played by Idris Elba, who says, "I got a job for you."
So he's back in fighting form, and he tells his boss, played by...
his handler, Nick, played by Golshifteh Farahani,
that he agreed to do a mission, so she needs to get with the game. So the goal, or the mission, is to save this woman who's the wife of some nefarious person. She and her 2 children are being held in a prison. The husband has them in an actual prison.
Her name is Ketevan. Each time that came up, I thought of ketamine, but yeah.
So Chris and his team go and get her and her family. They successfully escape. But where things get mucked up is the son,
Sandro,
calls his uncle. And the uncle convinces him, your mom's the problem. Your dad was trying to protect you. So tell me where you are so I can come get you. And the stupid son tells the evil uncle. So then there's a battle between the uncle's people and Chris Hemsworth and his people. They are successful in killing all the bad guys.
Just barely.
And then the family they were rescuing, the mom and the 2 kids, are taken off to safety. But, go ahead.
Well, the reveal is why Tyler Rake, Hemsworth, decided to take this mission in the first place. Is these kids are technically his niece and nephew. And that's technically his sister.
He agreed to do the mission because, he used to date that lady's sister.
Well, he had a kid with her.
And he had a kid with her that the kid died.
And that's played by Olga Kurylenko.
But anyway, Chris Hemsworth and his handler, they get caught and put in prison. But then the final scene of the film is Idris Elba has removed them from prison and says, "I can get you out if you agree to do another mission with me or for me."
And he works for somebody really gnarly.
So it seems like there'll be an Extraction 3.
But technically, they're already out of the prison. It's can't you just let me go for services rendered?
So I really liked how the film was shot. And it really excels with the action sequences.
Yeah, the fight choreography is pretty good. Deserving, I think, of maybe being projected on a big screen.
The first fight scene is maybe 10 or 15 minutes long, and it was pretty amazing. I felt it was a thrill ride. I felt like I was at one of those Universal Studios attractions where I'm sitting, I'm part of the... So that was really strong, and there are 3 big fight sequences, I think.
There's one on a train. That's really well done, and I think the best one is in Vienna.
A high-rise?
A high-rise in Vienna when the uncle, Zurab, has found out where they are and tries to take the children.
And I'm not a big action movie. Watching fighting gets boring to me, but I did really enjoy the fight sequences in this film. However, I think the story around it all was so generic. Like, who cares? Who's this mercenary group? Who are these bad guys? I didn't like the family that had been kidnapped. They're also all bad people, right? I mean, even Chris Hemsworth and his people are not good people.
The kids aren't bad. Yet.
Well, the oldest boy, I thought, or the son was annoying, Sandro.
He was annoying.
Well, who I thought looked like if you mix Pete Davidson and when Dave Chappelle plays that white TV broadcaster on the Chappelle show, if you mix those two together, that's what that boy looked like.
Yeah, so he's immediately kind of unappealing in many ways, but I'll automatically, I knew him, like, he's going to be a problem for the mom, and it turns out he is. After the uncle's people pick him up, he's like, are they going to kill my mom? And one of his henchmen is like, if you didn't want her to die, you shouldn't have called him.
So,
you idiot.
When Chris Hemsworth and his people go to rescue the family out of the prison, they have to fight their way through like the prison yard, and everyone's attacking them. And I thought it looks fantastic, but I thought it was really funny that the lady, the mom, she keeps saying, help me. Like, that's what I'm trying to do. You could count the number of times, like, it's a lot.
It is a lot.
She keeps saying, help me. Like, I'm trying to help you.
She does hold her own well enough. She makes it through that melee.
But that scene is punctuated with, at one point, Chris's character gets hit in the head with a brick, and it kind of stuns him. Mm-hmm. I thought that was well done, because I was so anxious. Mm-hmm. Then, at one point, there's, like, fire involved, and he gets, like, his outfit gets is engulfed in flames, like his arm. So he's punching with like flames on his arm. I thought that looked really cool. I did notate that, I mean, the number of times we said, oh my God, while we were watching it. Like, there's so many like it's not ultra gory violent, but it's just like shocking.
It's effective.
It's very effective.
Mm-hmm. Lots of the instruments are used and hits to the head. And of course, Ketevan and Hemsworth, Tyler, they have to kill her husband in prison. They have to make their way through him first. And so that's another bit of the limited kind of anxiety I think that's going on with the kids being like, when's dad going to show up? And like, well, he's not coming.
I did think it would be interesting if there was some sort of crossover film where the directors of John Wick had like John Wick maybe fighting against Chris Hemsworth.
Tyler
Rake. Because the two styles of fighting are very different in the way they're shot. I think it'd be really fun if there were a crossover.
Sure. I think that the fight choreography is great. I think sometimes the cinematography in this, I think Greg Baldi, I think as the cinematographer is fine. I just think it looks a little, I don't know. There's, and I don't know if it's because if I watched this on the big screen, I'd feel a little differently. It feels diminished more than it should be.
Well, I liked it better than a lot of these Netflix films that look like ultra HD. They have that very specific look that feels kind of fake. This one felt very crisp and clean, but still cinematic. I liked it, but I do think it would have been better to see on a big screen.
I also didn't like the score. I felt it was really generic by Alex Belcher and Henry Jackman. I think this would have significantly been heightened. Even the action sequences that are well done, if there had been a really good score, a meaty score attached
I'm
to
assuming they were trying to focus on the fighting, because we do hear a lot of the punching and like stabbing and some gunshots.
You can still have that with some lulls and peaks in a really good score. I just think that's kind of a lost art a little bit.
So the family that's rescued, the little girl ends up being injured during the escape, so she's in a hospital. And did you notice the food they gave her in the hospital?
Mm-hmm. It looked like it was out of a Dr. Seuss book.
It was like a ham and cheese croissant sandwich that looked like it was made out of plastic, mm-hmm. and the biggest slice of cake for a little girl in the hospital you have ever seen. That also looked like cartoon food.
It looked fake, but some marzipan covered cakes do look like that.
I couldn't believe that was because you usually expect like softer food like Jell-O, mm-hmm. and no, they gave this girl like she was at a cartoon French pastry cafe. Yeah, the son, he was my least favorite part of the movie. I feel bad for saying that, but I did not care for him.
Well, no, because it's also the film's doing this moral high ground, keep the children safe above all, because the son ends up getting, Golshifteh ends up getting shot because of him.
Well, he's annoying because he calls his uncle knowing that the uncle's going to come through. And then when the uncle gets there and is telling him, like, bring your ass over here, the son is hesitating. Mm-hmm. That drove me crazy. Like, you're the reason we're in this mess, and you were so against Chris Hemsworth's character. You were mad at your mom for getting you in this situation, and now that your uncle's here, you're confused. I know it's because he's a kid, but...
It's because he's a kid, and they're trying to... his own father, and then his uncle does this to the kid, Sandro, about how he has to be hardened to live in this world, because these kids have been living in this prison with their dad, as the mom says they haven't seen the sunlight in weeks, and then Zurab, the uncle, tries to make Sandro shoot Hemsworth point blank in the head, and he can't do it, which also is like, well, now we're going to, you won't prevail because you had an opportunity to kill him and you didn't. But
the high-rise action sequence sort of ends with, I thought, a really good scene where Golshifteh's character is like, she's hanging, like, kind of dangling off the side of this high-rise building, and then and it's made out of all glass, and she's sliding. I felt like it was at the level of, like, a Mission Impossible.
Ghost Protocol? Sure.
Yeah, it was fun, and I do like Chris Hemsworth. He is, it's kind of funny because he is a little distracting. Like, all I keep thinking in my mind is, like, if I looked like him, I wouldn't be out here.
Well, Golshifteh, too. It's like...
I'd be a Hugo Boss model. I wouldn't be out here damn near getting killed every day.
Like, you haven't had any offers to do any other kind of work?
Also, the number of times they talk about family, it makes me think of Vin Diesel and Fast and Furious. Like, they keep saying family. The family. Is the family okay?
Yes. And then, of course, that's what... Tyler Rake's broken family is what's kind of motivating his will to live, and yet, keeping his pain and suffering intact. And then, of course, Ukrainian-born Olga Kurylenko ends up playing a Georgian here. I don't think they had really any chemistry. She visits him in this prison in the end, and he's like, because she's like, oh, my sister's safe, but the U.S. government's liquidated everything, so they have nothing. He's like, go to my house and go to the third floorboard behind the sofa, and there's $1 million there. And it's like, you're gonna give her that?
That was so awkward because he says it really fast. Like, I'm assuming she knows the space he's talking about, and then they just move on. I would have been like, hold on, let me write this down. So where is this $1 million in cash?
Well, did the authorities recording this conversation not know where you live either?
Golshifteh's character has a brother who's part of the team, and his name is Yaz. And I thought it was funny because they keep saying Yaz, like Yaz.
Yes.
And then his character, I don't know if he's supposed to be gay. He seems gay. But he ends up getting killed, and his sister's reaction, I thought, was excessive because don't y'all...
Isn't this the line of work that we haven't assessed this risk?
Kill people... Like, you make a living killing people, and you employ your brother to assist you. Did you never think he'd be killed at some point or injured? She's acting like he got shot up at Starbucks. Like, I just don't understand.
That's also her moment. That's Golshifteh's moment to have in this film.
Idris had nothing to do, but it's nice seeing him.
Sure.
I would watch the third one. I did enjoy this for the action sequences, but when we were getting to the business of the actual story, I found it, like, generic and boring.
Because it is.
So for those reasons, I would give this film 2.5 out of 5.
I concur with 2.5 because I gave the first one 1.5. I really didn't like the first one. I thought it was egregiously dull and nothing really salvageable. At least here there are some impressive elements, and I don't know if that's because with the sequel because the first one's based on a graphic novel, so I don't know if they were able to kind of get away from the straitjacket of that to do their own things, but this was more entertaining to me.
Anything else?
No.
Hit the thanks button, listen to our podcast. Bye.